Toto. But Toto's just like, yeah, I'm not listening to you. Bye. And the other ones are like, okay, we'll still follow the plan and we'll just hope for the best that Toto just does what Toto does and fights him. So they start out and they fight and they end up actually pairing Yuji with Toto.
Which, also the funniest thing about Toto is he's obsessed with this idol.
Yes, he is. And everyone is just so done and they don't care. But they end up fighting and, he's like, what kind of woman do you like? And Yuji goes, well, I like
a girl with a big ass.
Big ass. Like Jennifer Lawrence. Which I truly wonder if Jennifer Lawrence knows how much she's referenced in Jujutsu Kaisen.
I doubt it. She either doesn't know or she doesn't give a fuck. She's just like, whatever.
And Toto's just like, my man! And it's just
and they start he basically looks at him like a fucking lover, but not in that way. It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest.
Weird. Well, he thinks of him as his brother. They're best friends now.
Hey guys, I'm Bill, a one-time Instagram blogger and now a podcaster.
And I'm Alex, the chaotic neutral.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast.
A brother-sister duo
that talks about gaming.
And also anime.
And don't forget the collecting, sometimes.
Ah, forget it. We're just a nostalgia podcast at this point.
But anyways, guys, thanks for joining us as we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
It's been snowing.
Yeah, it has. It's been snowing quite a bit.
Yeah. Lots of snow. Lots of
rain.
Snow melting immediately after.
And then just like sudden like blizzards in the middle of the night and typical New England stuff.
And you wake up and you're just like, what the heck?
Yeah, I was supposed to go to work this weekend for 6 hours of overtime and I got out onto the highway and it was Fishtail City, so I said nope.
Yeah.
And I went home.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it's been a week, like nothing too crazy. We did a guest appearance at guest spot recently, so that was kind of the last time we recorded. Other than that, I think before that this is the first time it's just been us.
Yeah.
In a few weeks, so.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then that's still same old shit. Work.
Yep.
Eat. Sleep. Work. Tilly.
She's napping in her little bowl next to us.
Yep, being her honorary co-host self.
She may come and say something, but probably not. She seems to be tired and she wants to nap.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, it's been crazy. We actually recently opened our Discord server, so that's new.
Yeah.
So
I tried to post a cursed image and it didn't let me.
Yeah, it was specifically marked as inappropriate.
Yeah, it wasn't though. I found this picture of like these little heart like cookie cake things. And on the inside there was chocolate, and then someone tried to microwave it, so it looks like
they exploded like most things do in the microwave, and it looked like an ass taking a shit. It was great.
And then Discord was like, "This is inappropriate."
Yeah, Discord was like, "You cannot post inappropriate content," and we were like, "All right."
Yeah. So if you find that image on Twitter or something, that's where I found it. Just beware. You can post it on Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Even though it's just a cookie.
Yeah. That looks like an ass.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, so you can join the Gaming and Collecting Podcast fan server. It's pretty easy to find. You can just go into our Linktree / the Barber Who Games, and the invite link is in there.
Yep, I'll post cat pictures, cursed images,
anime
but not that one.
anime outros, gaming talk, anime stuff.
I'm gonna be posting more figures in my figure showcase, but I've been waiting for something to arrive, to order it, and I finally ordered it, so it's gonna be good.
Yep. No, but other than that, mostly just still collecting manga, because gaming is expensive and it's miserable to collect games these days.
I'm still looking for the omnibus of chapters 85, 86, 87. I'm pretty certain of One Piece. But I am pretty hyped that my second favorite show, Welcome to Demon School Aruma, for a while you couldn't buy the manga or really read it anywhere, but they're finally actually gonna start printing it. So as soon as that's in Barnes and Noble, I'll be picking it up.
Yeah. Yep. But also, I'd like to thank, it's going to be like 4 weeks after, but I'd like to thank all the people who listened to our episode 3 anime films episode. It spiked in views recently, which was really awesome to see.
It was really cool, but also like, what?
Yeah, it was also why.
Yeah.
But either way. But anyway, speaking of anime, we're returning to Anime Swap.
No, we aren't.
Yeah, we are.
We're doing book club, but not anime, where we read dictionaries. Today I picked the Webster's Dictionary, and Bill, what did you pick?
So anyways, Anime Swap.
Why don't you, Bill got me the wrong soda, and I'm sad about it. He got me a Sprite, but he got the zero sugar one, and it doesn't taste as good, because I hit something. Because it has that fake sugar taste, and it's just bleh.
You try to be nice, people, and this is the thanks you get.
Hey.
But anyways,
don't be rude.
So anime swap.
That's not being rude.
This is the 8th anime swap we've done.
And, it is?
Yeah.
I feel like we've done less.
Yeah, well, the first few were kind of odd because we didn't really do full series. We only kind of did like 5
Movies?
episodes or 5 episodes,
Yeah.
But
now we do full-on series.
yeah, and we did 100-episode series last time, and we realized
till we do One Piece.
that's not going to be a swap. That's going to just be its own retrospective at some
Bill
point.
needs to watch One Piece. One Piece. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry. I'm horrible at singing. Oh, my eyes just started watering like crazy.
Yeah, you should really go to see a doctor about that.
I don't have time.
But yeah, anyways, so Anime Swap. We picked 2 interesting ones this time.
Yes.
2 relatively new series.
Yeah, they actually, I'd say they came out in like that same newer generation.
Yeah, and we also were going more for shorter series this time around because
Yeah.
we
Or at least as of now, a shorter series.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what the future holds for these series as they are ongoing mangas. So these could become new, longer series.
We may have to revisit these at some point.
Yeah.
But for now, they were short as compared to Black Clover and Yu Yu Hakusho, which we did last time, and it was great but long.
And they both had like 2 parts, like that we could say. Like, it had the first part and the second part. They weren't really seasons though. They were like a part and a part. It's like what most series are doing now, where it's like they don't release all of it at once. They release it in 2 halves.
Yeah. But I guess to start off, so the ones we picked were, Alex chose Jujutsu Kaisen.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
And I chose Spy Family.
Yeah.
Not Spy X Family, it's Spy Family.
Ugh. It's like when people say Hunter X Hunter and you're just like,
Yeah. But yeah, so Spy Family and Jujutsu Kaisen. So the whole reason we chose these 2 is they were both 25, 24 episoders.
Yep.
And we could easily get them done within 2 weeks.
And they were both things that we wanted to watch at some point. So it killed 2 birds with 1 stone as well.
See, that's the fun of Anime Swap, is we just get to watch these shows that we were never going to watch in the past.
I know.
And then we just have a reason to.
Yeah.
But anyways. I guess we should start with the first one we watched, and that was Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah. So Jujutsu Kaisen is actually a relatively new, it was a relatively new manga and then also anime. The manga only came out in March 2018 with in Shonen Jump. So it's not a very old series. But similar, I'm assuming similar to Spy Family, where that's not very old as well. The whole story follows the main character, Yuji Itadori, as he ends up joining a secret organization of Jujutsu sorcerers to eliminate the powerful curse named Sukuna. And he ends up becoming the host of him.
Because he ate his finger.
Yeah, so kind of weird premise, but I believe also it was one of the early Crunchyroll dubs, where it was licensed by Crunchyroll. The anime is licensed by Crunchyroll for streaming.
And And this was before the Crunchyroll Funny merger, but after their partnership. Funimation and Crunchyroll are really confusing to figure out their weird
Yeah.
how they work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that weird in between period when they were still separate companies.
Yeah. So in like this world, basically all living beings, like, they have this thing called like cursed energy. And it all arises from like negative emotions that naturally everyone has. Ordinary people can't really control this energy, and there's a few select people who can. And the reason why a lot of people who can't control this energy are actually the reason why curses are created. And they're basically, all those feelings kind of create curses, which are very like creepy, gruesome monsters slash ghosts. Bill said it had a lot of Mariko.
It reminded me a lot of the spirits in Mariko Chan's.
Yeah, just very I'd say body horror esque creatures as well. And basically, like, with these curses, on the other side there are Jujutsu sorcerers that use cursed techniques, and also could be considered shamans. And they use the cursed energy in their bodies, and they're actually able to access it and control it. High-ranking sorcerers and cursed ones can use even bigger techniques that they call like domain expansion, and we'll kind of get into that later. But the main kind of power sources in this thing are cursed energy, are curses, and Jujutsu sorcerers. So those are kind of the two sides you're fighting on.
Yep. The classic shonen, what's our power of this anime manga?
Yeah. So to start out the series, you're kind of just, it almost doesn't really seem like it's going to be this story about curses and sorcerers. You're kind of just following this guy named Itadori Yuji, and he's just a high school student, and his grandfather is on his deathbed. So he's visiting his grandfather in the hospital. He's also a part of this occult club.
Yeah, even though he's like being scouted by the track team because...
Well, yeah, so the only reason he joined the occult club is because he wanted to be able to leave early to go see his grandpa, because his grandpa is passing away. And at this moment, I think in the manga, I'm not that far in the manga yet, but I am reading it. At this moment, we don't really know anyone from Yuji's family besides his grandpa.
Who's dead.
Who, at this point is not dead, but
it's a foregone conclusion.
He dies very early on. So we're kind of learning about Yuji, and then you also kind of see throughout these little clips of Yuji in high school, and like that the track team is scouting him. Yuji is like very unnaturally fit and strong, and I don't know the reasoning behind it. Maybe it gets revealed later, but that's just the plot point. Like, Yuji's really strong, really powerful. So the next kind of main character you kind of meet is Megumi Fushiguro, which is the black spiky-haired one, Bill.
Yeah. You notice that, like, the characters that you get introduced to, like, his occult friends are just generic anime characters, and it's only the people with very distinct designs that are important.
Well, yeah, because his friends in the occult club are just basically plot devices. So... the reason why we're introduced to Fushiguro is because he's actually on a mission from the Jujutsu sorcerers, and he's looking for a specific cursed item. And you kind of find out that cursed items are kind of kept in places to ward off other curses. So at schools, at places that we know have negative energy, school. It is kind of funny, but I mean, yeah, school can be depressing. It can probably create a lot of energy like that. So schools, other places like that. So they place them all around. Right now, Fushiguro is trying to find a special cursed object, which is a finger. A specific finger. And as he goes, he finds out that it is not there. What we do find out, though, is that it's not there because the occult club members have taken it because they want to
open it up.
Open and see what it is. But Yuji takes the box, which kind of leads to their meeting. So Yuji was actually at the hospital, and unfortunately, his grandfather did pass away, and he had to say, goodbye. As he's leaving the hospital, though, that's where Fushiguro finds him, because he's actually he thinks Yuji has the finger, but in fact he only has the box, so all he was kind of sensing was, like, the residue, of, like, the residue of the cursed energy. So Yuji tells him, like, oh, my friends at the occult club, like, took it. And then Fushiguro kind of freaks out because, like, he tells them that they're gonna open it, and if they do that, like, bad things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
So they rush to the school, and what's happening is that curses are now, because they opened it, curses are now actively trying to get to
the finger.
Because if they consume the finger, they'll get greater power. Hint, hint. So that's happening. They go in, they save their friends, but they actually are fighting off a very powerful curse. And Fushiguro ends up getting injured. He actually chooses to save Yuji, but Yuji ends up helping him. And during the fight, like, Yuji tries to get the finger, and then he tries to get it away, and in Yuji's mind, he's like, well, if he can't have it, then it should be good. And he eats the finger.
Yep.
So after eating the finger, he ends up getting possessed by Sukuna, who is very rapey and very creepy, because he's literally like, where's the woman and children? And Bill was like, ew. And I was also like, ew. Sukuna is a very bad guy. And I believe
But he's so awful that you kind of like to hate him.
Well, yeah, you do. He's very likable, but he's also, like, he's awful.
I wouldn't say likable. He's just kind of in that sense of, like,
when I mean likable,
you hate him so much that you enjoy.
Yeah, he's a character you enjoy. So, but surprising Yuji and then Gojo.
Oh, yeah, speaking of Gojo, we did see him very briefly at the start of the anime.
Yes, you do see him very briefly. I forgot to mention
And the best way to describe Gojo is he's essentially Kakashi from Naruto, only he has a mask on his eyes rather than his face.
Yeah. And he's basically OP.
Yeah, like Kakashi.
Yeah. So...
But he's also a fucking, like, troll. But although we don't really see that yet.
Yeah, he is. He does. He is trolling Yuji, Fushiguro, because he, like, comes in with, like, his treats from, like, another place. He's like, "Oh, I just went shopping," and, like, Fushiguro's like, "What the fuck?" So, what happens is that they actually Gojo, who is kind of just finding the situation hilarious, the fact that Yuji ate the finger, but not only, so Sukuna possessed him, but he was able to fight off the possession, and he took his body back over. So they kind of do a test to see if he can, like, if it's not a fluke, and he tests it again, and then they prove, like, hey, Yuji has control of the body, but he still has to report it to the Jujutsu sorcerers, the main sorcerers, and they decide that Yuji has to die.
Yep.
But Gojo ends up presenting them with an idea of, let's have Yuji eat all the fingers, and then we'll kill him.
Yes.
Because their thoughts are, well, if he can contain it all, and then they kill him, Sukuna will die. Sukuna will be no more. In theory.
They don't know if this will even fucking work.
Well, no, and the thing is like, they're basically letting Gojo do this, but in the back of their mind is like that, we're gonna kill Yuji any second we can.
Which is incredibly stupid. Basically, you start learning really fast, Gojo's bosses are really dumb.
Well, yeah, and that's where you kind of find out the ideas, the motives of Gojo, and kind of how he's training his students, is he's actually training the students to become his, not minions per se, but...
I mean, they're basically his minions.
But he's trying to basically get a bunch of people on his side to change Jujutsu sorcerer culture. Basically change how it's run.
He's basically trying to start a revolution.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So we find out that, and they choose to keep Yuji alive. You're introduced to Nobara, who's the other student. So there's 3 students in the first year class. Nobara,
and they're all
Megumi,
characters.
Yes.
Even Megumi, who's clearly the straight man of the group.
Yeah. So we are introduced to Nabara, and they basically kind of test to see if she is she's cut out for this, because she was from basically an old town out in the hills, and like curses out
in the
countryside,
boonies.
in the countryside versus curses in the
City.
The city ones are on a different level, and it's all kind of makes sense when you think about it, because of how it works is curses are built off of the cursed energy inside us all, and in places that are filled with people in small, like in a large population of people in a small area, that means extra curse power, basically. So he basically tests her. They pass the test, and Yuji also helps her. And they end up saving like a little boy who.
Yeah,
was,
which is, you see the first reel. She's an interesting character because she is literally like a Sundari, but she's also like a Yandari at the same time.
Yeah,
which is hilarious.
and it's like a good lesson to her, because where she was, curses aren't smart. Like. But where cursed in the city, like they've gained intelligence, and
there's an excellent scene where she basically realizes she's backed into a corner, so she drops her weapon thinking like the curse will take her instead and free the child. And the curse is like, fuck you, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And going to kill both of them, although Yuji happens to show up right at the perfect time.
And he punches through a wall with his bare fist.
Because Yuji's not normal. Like, that's like the clear... Even before he ate the finger, he was...
Yeah.
It's unknown what he was.
So kind of after this, what happens is they actually get sent on another mission, and this mission is basically sabotage. This mission, they were sent on it. It's like an incredibly the highest grade curse spirit, and they basically set it up so that Yuji will hopefully die. And it was all set up in that Gojo is far away. So they sent in 3 first years to take care of something that like Gojo would take care of. So they go in. They go in. What's happened is that the cursed spirit has kind of taken over. It actually takes place at a juvenile detention center. And part of it is they're supposed to basically see if they can find any bodies, because they know no one survived at this point, but if they can at least give peace to the people who did lose their families, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
So they go through, they find the body. Yuji and Megumi kind of fight a little bit, because like in Megumi's eyes, like
very different
ideals
at the time.
Yeah, at the time. And what happens is they actually get separated. Nobara gets separated from Yuji and Megumi, Fushiguro, and Nobara kind of gets attacked by a different spirit, but then Yuji and Fushiguro end up encountering the high-level curse. And Yuji tries to call on the powers of Sukuna, but Sukuna's basically like, no, fuck you. And he doesn't help him. So he ends up actually getting his hand cut off, and like his finger, like one of his hands cut off, and then his fingers basically burnt down to nothing. But he does actually end up using cursed energy, like not in a very controlled sense, but he's just able to force it out, and it's like, hey, like Yuji can use cursed energy and cursed techniques. But unfortunately, like there's no way he's gonna beat him. So Sukuna does end up taking over his body, and healing him at the same time, because that's one thing that Sukuna can do. He can like use reverse curse techniques.
My favorite part too is when he heals his hand. He goes, "Oh shit, I healed his hand."
Yeah, he's like, "God damn it!" So he heals him, and then at first he actually tries to work with the curse that's there, but the curse says no, stupidly, and curse gets destroyed, like literally chopped into tiny pieces. And why the reason the curse is so powerful was because it actually had one of Sukuna's fingers. So womp womp. So Sukuna ends up taking the finger. He consumes the finger and ends up going back to find Fushiguro. So he finds him, and they actually have a really good fight. And you'll notice this is actually really important. Sukuna really likes Fushiguro.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepiness in this show.
there is, but he actually feels like Fushiguro isn't using his full potential. And he actually says, I believe that's the line, he's like, you're not using your full potential.
You're holding back.
And he actually makes Yuji basically his hostage, where he rips his heart out. Because Sukuna can live without it.
And
but
just tosses
Yuji,
it to the side. Like,
yeah, Yuji cannot. So they're fighting, and the fight actually concludes when Yuji actually takes over his body. Because at this point, Yuji had let Sukuna take over, but was actually struggling to get it back. And then when he was able to get it back, it was his heart was gone. So they actually have a good conversation, and Yuji actually tells Fushiguro, I hope he lives a long and happy life, and then is dead.
Yeah.
Is
dead. Quotation marks.
Well, no, at this point he is dead. But there's other things at play. So basically what happens is that they end up taking him back, and Fushiguro and Nobara are actually really depressed because they kind of lost their classmate. Gojo was pissed because he knew it was a setup this whole time. But miraculously, Yuji, as all of this is happening, Nobara and Fushiguro are ending up training because they have an upcoming school event. Because
basically the school sports festival.
Yeah, it's the sports festival
type of school.
Because they're the Tokyo school, but there's also a Kyoto school, sister school. So they have a sister exchange event. So they start training with their upperclassmen that you meet, which the upperclassmen are great, especially one's a panda.
Yeah, he's literally just panda.
But they're really cool, have cool stories. So they're training there. And at the time, Yuji is actually having a conversation with Sukuna in his mind. And they actually end up making a deal. The deal not being on Yuji's end. The deal is like that Yuji has to beat Sukuna in a fight, which... Yeah.
Which he gets, although it's great, he's all like, I'll fucking do it. Because he actually does get a hit in. But then, like, he immediately, the second he's like, I'm going to go fight, he literally just cuts his head off and just dies.
Yeah, but the thing is that Sukuna, with his deal, made it so that Yuji would not remember. So, the thing is, when he wakes up, it's actually in, like, a morgue, and they're actually planning to dissect him, and then he just kind of...
Gets off the table and he's like,
yo, I'm naked. And Gojo's like, woohoo, you're alive. And Gojo actually asked, did you make a deal with Sukuna? But Yuji's like, I don't know. Because part of the deal was that he would not remember the deal. Which will come back to bite him, I think, later on. So Yuji's back to life, but... he's not ready to go back yet, because if he goes back at this point, the same thing is going to happen in the future. Yuji needs to learn how to use curse techniques. So this is basically his little training arc, which he starts out just by watching movies and like putting his cursed energy into a little doll. And if he loses focus, he'll get punched.
Yes. And they're like the cheap, stupidest B movies ever, too.
Yes.
Which is the best.
Yes. So that's happening. And then the others are training. And then at one point, Sukuna you kind of start learning about who the enemy is. And you find out that the enemy is actually these mega curses. These curses...
And this one human guy.
Yes. And he was once actually a student of... he was actually in Gojo's class. His name is Suguro Gado. And he's basically a corrupted sorcerer, which I believe they called like a curse user rather than a jujutsu sorcerer.
There's a great scene though that shows just how fucking evil these guys are.
Oh yeah, so that's what I'm kind of going to talk about is that the scene is that they actually go to a restaurant, and no one can see the curses besides maybe certain people who just have that innate ability, but for the most part. Most people can't see curses, so they go into a restaurant. And the curses that he's accompanied with are probably some of the most powerful curses in the world. There's the curse... these curses are made off of like really big human innate fears. Like, one of them is like the fear of the ocean.
Yes.
Which I agree. Like, if that curse was real, I would be giving to it because the ocean freaks me the fuck out. It's creepy and scary. And then one's like the fear of like the forest and like the unknown, and then one's actually like volcano and like the earth, and like is actually kind of the like curse spirit embodying like the fears of like Mount Fuji. So they're actually really cool like curses, but they're meeting and they're basically discussing their plans. And their plans is they have two objectives. They need to get Yuji Itadori and Sukuna on their side, and they need to immobilize Gojo.
Yes.
They need to immobilize I was getting Gato and Gojo in my head, and I was like, words. And they need to immobilize him. And just remember, they need to immobilize because they know they can't defeat him.
Yeah, because there's a great scene where Lava Head,
yes,
because I can't remember his name, and he's just Volcano Head to me, tries to fight Gojo and gets utterly curb stomped.
Yeah.
And the only reason he lives is because Gojo kind of lets him live to get information, and there's enough time for him to get rescued.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what the conflict at the restaurant is, because Gato's like, yeah, you can't beat Gojo. It's not going to happen. And Gato's like, yeah, I freaking can. And he's kind of getting angry and pumped up. And he's basically letting his curse out. And everyone's just burning alive.
Everybody in the restaurant burns to death except for the one employee who somehow sensed it and said, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and thank God he did.
Because everyone else, literally in the most gruesome scene, just gets fucking dead.
Yep. That's basically what happens there. So, and then kind of the next big point is, while Yuji's training, Gojo ends up fighting that guy, fighting the volcano curse, and the volcano curse, he actually ends up kind of joking with him, and you kind of see Gojo's ability is like he has like this infinite barrier that no one can touch. So no one can basically touch him because he's like, hold my hand, and they can't because like there's actually like a gap of like infinity. And it's also your first introduction to like domain expansion, yes. where the curse ends up opening his domain, but then Gojo ends up opening his domain, and if your domain is powerful than another domain, it can overpower that domain. I said domain like 6 times in a row.
They say it a lot in the show.
They do. So sorry, I heard a dog bark and it scared me. So that ends up happening. And then Yuji is still training and the others are still training because Yuji needs to figure out his power. And you get to meet one of the great characters. Nanami. You meet Nanami.
Who's very similar to another character that we'll be getting to later.
Yeah, he's very straightforward and business, almost business-like. And he actually he was going to be a sorcerer, and he's just like, oh, I hate being a sorcerer, bye. And then he worked in a business, and then he worked as like a salaryman. He was like, oh, this sucks too. And then he eventually just like, you know what? Like, I can at least... this is the lesser of the two evils, and he chose to be a sorcerer instead. So he's a sorcerer, and he's kind of training Yuji, and the main villain of this arc is, this little mini arc is, Mahito, which his curse is very interesting, because he's actually a newly born curse, and his is, like, curse of, like, people's hatred, and, like... So he's just kind of like people. Like, that's his curse.
And his power is like body horror.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And his ability is that he can actually turn people into cursed monsters.
Yes.
Basically, it kills them, or basically almost kills them with barely any...
Because you get this whole, like, weird, like... inner like kind of like arc where it's basically like it's really metaphorical, and like he's like, oh yeah, hearts don't matter, it's the soul that's the true healing in the body. The soul.
So this arc happens, and you actually kind of get a fake out where there's another character, I'm brain farting
Emo
his
boy?
name. Yeah, Emo boy. I'm brain farting his name right now, but he's
big impact small role guy.
Yeah, so. He is, and you kind of follow him, and he kind of befriends Mahito, the
but
human
also
curse.
befriends Yuji.
But yeah, and at the same time befriends Yuji. And it's really funny because in the end, the first opening credits, there's actually a scene at the end, towards the end of it, where it shows all of them kind of under a tree, and the guy emo hair is there, and it almost makes you believe that, like, oh, he's gonna join their class and become a sorcerer, and nope, you get a fake out.
Yeah, because his whole gimmick is he's like hated by everybody in his school just
Well,
because
he was just bullied. Like,
Yeah.
he was just bullied for being different, and he ends up just being a pawn, basically. Like, he and his mom is a pawn. They actually, the curses basically put a finger in his house, and his mom ends up
brutally murdered.
Yeah, brutally murdered.
And his mom is such a joy of a character, so it was strictly just to
is.
piss you off because
Yeah, it was to light fuel, so it kind of throws him into a rage, thinking that someone cursed him, because Mahito kind of manipulates him. And he ends up going to the school and actually ends up, like, trying to kill a bunch of people.
which
kill
admittedly
his
was
bully
a
and
little
teacher.
justified. But...
And yeah, no, it was, especially where you looked at it, revealed, like, they pull his bangs away and you see all the cigarette burns on his forehead, and that is like it's very uncomfortable. Like, it's uncomfortable to look at, because it's like you kind of side with him, but at the same time you're also like, damn, like, this is dark.
Yeah. And then of course we get the most iconic, probably an infamous scene of this entire arc, where Yuji tries to get through to him, basically.
Yeah.
Stop his rampage, and right as he finally starts getting through to him, what's his face?
Yeah.
Shows up and then turns him into giant dingo monster.
Yeah, and that basically ends any hope of him, like, becoming a sorcerer.
Yeah, because he straight up did. Because
Yeah.
I remember he like tries to get Sukuna to help, and Sukuna's like, "Fuck you, dude."
Yeah, and it's actually a really good scene of both of the, like, Sukuna and Mahito just laughing maniacally, because curses, they don't care. Like,
Yeah.
they get joy off of
Just
stuff
because
like this.
Sukuna and Yuji are sort of partnered right now
Yeah,
doesn't mean
he's gonna help him.
yeah, it doesn't mean Sukuna's a good guy now. He's still a fucking douche.
No, yeah, he doesn't help him. So
He's basically stuck in this weird predicament where he just can't control Yuji for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, he can't. And it's visibly frustrating. So they end up fighting. Yuji ends up fighting him, and Nanami also is fighting him. And what they find out is Yuji is actually Mahito's natural enemy, because Mahito's powers are very in tune with the soul. And if he messes with Yuji's soul, he messes with Sukuna. So the first time he tries to, Sukuna actually says, "Don't you dare touch me, or I will kill you."
Yeah, he basically warns him that, yeah, if you mess with me again, I will fucking end you.
Yeah. So the fight ends up going on, and it's a really good fight sequence.
You get him and Miyanomi or whatever.
Nanami
end up fighting, and he gets Nanami trapped in this weird, like, soul dimension.
Well, it's his domain.
Yeah.
So he ends up trapping him in his domain. And Nanami is a very strong sorcerer. He's like the second highest level. But
He's
Nanami
probably the
knows,
strongest when you take Gojo out of it, because Gojo is Gojo's literally so OP that he just doesn't count.
Yeah,
like anymore.
Gojo is just above crazy. But he ends up getting stuck, and he actually almost, like, when you hear him, he kind of starts accepting that he's probably going to die. But one thing that you learn about these domains is they're very hard to get out of, but if you want to break into them, it's
pretty
very easy. So Yuji actually breaks into the domain.
But because Yuji's in there, technically the domain is his domain, and it's touching
Yuji,
which is
touching Sukuna.
And Sukuna literally, it's kind of a fun scene where all of a sudden, like, everything just kind of stops.
Yep.
And it cuts to him in Sukuna's domain, and Sukuna's like, "I warned you."
Yep.
And just straight up, like, one-shots him.
Yeah.
But doesn't kill him, because reasons.
Yeah. So that ends up happening. And they end up winning. Mahito flees because he knows, like, at this point he'll die. So
Yes.
he ends up fleeing.
Mahito's interesting because he, like, has this weird respect for, like, Nanami.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he's like, wow, this guy actually can fight me. And I kind of find
Yeah.
him enjoyable.
Yeah. Because he enjoys the fight. Like, he enjoys the fight in the torture. So they end up going, and then the next plot point is like, okay, Yuji's now strong enough where he can kind of defend himself. which leads to the Kyoto-Tokyo exchange event, which is basically what you learn very quickly is that the principal of Kyoto is pissed that Yuji is alive because it's this totally awkward scene where Gojo is basically fucking with everyone, and he puts Yuji in a box.
Yeah.
And he rolls him over.
Such an uncomfortable scene.
And he says, Yuji, pop out of the box. He's like, I'm alive! And Nobara and, like, Fushiguro are just like, what the hell? We grieved over you. And it's...
they get
so
over
funny.
it really fast,
They get over it really fast, but it is funny, though. One of the funniest scenes I think, is when they're talking with the upperclassmen and themselves to kind of plan how they're going to win the exchange event. And they just have Yuji holding the picture frame over, which is supposed to be like what they do for when people die. And he's like, this is kind of bullying. And one thing that I love about Yuji's design is they kind of give him Togepi eyes, which Bill can't unseen after I show him, right, Bill? You just see Togepi. And while they're talking, the Kyoto school principal is telling them, yeah, your goal now, you gotta kill Yuji. And one of the characters who I love, he is great. And I'm forgetting his name. Shit.
Oh, the big muscle man.
Big muscle man, but I need to know his name. I need to know. It's gonna bother me. But basically, basically they're being told to they have to kill Yuji, and this one character is just like, no, I'm fighting him, and I want to see. I'm not going to I'm basically not going to listen to you.
He wants to fight him at first, but his whole gimmick is he's obsessed with people's
Toto.
Yeah.
That's it. I was brain farting so bad.
His whole gimmick is he's like obsessed with people's interest in women.
Well, yeah, his whole mindset is that he thinks if they have in his mind, a good sense of his interest in women, if they agree with him, then like they're a good guy and they can be his friend. Because he does it with Fushiguro, and Fushiguro does not give him an answer he likes, and he basically beats the shit out of Fushiguro. Because Toto is probably also one of the strongest characters, and he's a third year from Kyoto. But Toto's just like, yeah, I'm not listening to you, bye. And the other ones are like, okay, we'll still follow the plan, and we'll just hope for the best that Toto just does what Toto does and fights him. So they start out and they fight, and they end up actually pairing Yuji with Toto.
Also the funniest thing about Toto is he's obsessed with this idol.
Yes, he is. And everyone is just so done, and they don't care. But they end up fighting, and he's like, what kind of woman do you like? And Yuji goes, well, I like
a girl with a big ass.
Like Jennifer Lawrence. Which I truly wonder if Jennifer Lawrence knows how much she's referenced in Jujutsu Kaisen.
I doubt it. She either doesn't know or she doesn't give a fuck. She's just like, whatever.
And Toto's just like, my man! And it's just
and they start he basically looks at him like a fucking lover, but not in that way. It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest.
Weird. Well, he thinks of him as his brother. They're best friends now. So this happens, and
Yuji has no idea either. He's just like, okay.
Yeah, Yuji's just like, no,
but then he gets into it as it goes on.
Well, yeah, but then he also isn't into it. It's funny. But this is kind of happening, and then slowly they start to realize that something's going on, and that there's a sabotage, not by the Kyoto school though, but by those evil curses.
Oh, we also forgot to talk about Dead Inside Kagome.
Oh yeah, the teacher from Kyoto wears like a priestess outfit.
She's a priestess outfit. We had the running joke that this is just Kagome if she never went back.
Yeah, exactly. There's probably good fan fiction about that, I bet.
Probably.
Probably exists.
She also hates Gojo because he's Gojo.
Yeah.
Everyone hates Gojo because he's better than them and he knows it, so he just fucks with everybody the entire time.
Yeah. So this is happening. Sorry, I'm really brain fighting.
So the other spirit shows it, the one that's very manly looking, but actually is feminine.
It doesn't really have a gender.
Yeah.
None of the curses really do.
I always, I thought of the clover clip.
So Hanami, which is the one that's basically the embodiment of fears of like forest,
Nature,
in
essentially.
nature. So they end up appearing and they are incredibly strong, and they end up fighting. Fushiguro ends up fighting them with some of the other students, and all of them end up changing their like focus to like, okay, we're not killing Yuji anymore. We got to beat these curses, and like the game ends up just being thrown out the window at this point.
Yep. And they seal out Gojo because that's like literally the only.
Yeah, they actually put a cursed barrier over a veil, as they call it, and it's basically the anti-Gojo veil. And one of the cursed users that they brought 2 cursed users as well as Hanami. And one of them, he just really wants to make a coat rack out of Gojo. It's weird.
And he faces off against the other principal who has guitar powers.
It's so great, even though Bill hated it. It was great.
You hyped it up like it was going to be the greatest thing ever, and then he finally shows it off, and I'm like, that's it.
I thought it was great. I thought it was great. So they end up fighting, and they end up winning, like, and basically Yuji gets, like, another little powder-up where it ends up being, like, Todo coaching Yuji, and Yuji does get incredibly stronger, and they actually they get very close to beating Hanami. I think Gojo ends up coming to save them in the end, though, once the barrier goes
away, Gojo goes all like, fucking girly eye on them.
Yeah, he, like, lifts his mask and, like, shows his eye, which are so pretty. And he ends up, like, and Hanami ends up getting very, very injured and hurt, and has to recuperate. And then after, I don't know if this is filler, but they do a baseball game as the second tournament. And, like, all of them are so confused, but it's great. It's real fun.
All Gojo's idea.
It's all Gojo's idea.
We also forgot there was, like, little side plots with all the other students that are pretty deep and important, but we'd be here for fucking 2 episodes.
We would be here for very
long. All I know
long.
Is the blue-haired girl is the cutest one and the funniest.
Yes, the blue-haired girl.
But she's also the butt monkey.
She's very useless but lovable, and she really likes Gojo.
She's the only one who likes Gojo.
Yeah, she really is. It's really funny. And, like, of course, like, the sisters, too, that are separated, and you kind of find out...
the guy who's, like, crippled, and his form is a robot, and for the baseball arc, they just make him be the fucking pitching machine.
Which is... It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
And then we basically get into the final arc before season 1 ends, which is the 3...
Yeah, so the cursed
fetuses.
womb. The cursed womb spirits, which you actually only really encounter 2 during this arc, but it's like Chozo, Ezo, and Kechizu. And it's basically Yuji, Fushiguro, and Nobara get sent on another mission. But this one is a lot more achievable.
Great character development between the 3 of them, finally.
All of them. And you kind of learn a lot more about Fushiguro as well, and his sister, and kind of what happened to his sister. Which is, it's sad, because his sister is cursed. And she just, like, can't wake up. Like, she won't wake up. And it's basically she's in a coma, I think, at this point. But they end up fighting them. One of them is, like, this deformed monster, but the other 2 are humanoid. Ezo has this creepy mouth on his back, and they also heavily censored him for the anime, because I'm pretty certain, I've seen manga clips, I'm pretty certain he's, like, wearing a thong in the manga, but they didn't do it for the anime. So they fight him. Yuji and Nobara have an awesome battle together. Like, and one of my favorite scenes is where they're actually running away, and he has Nobara on his back, and Nobara, like, he's not on his back, she's carrying Nobara. And that's when she kind of realizes, like, holy shit, Yuji is, like, incredibly strong. Like, has weird non-human abilities.
Like, he was strong before.
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite scenes. And the fight is really cool. But it's also a little depressing, too, because, like, you kind of actually feel bad for them, because, like, the 3 of them are brothers. You know, they're brothers, and they don't want each other to die. So, like, when one of them dies, it's very heartbreaking for the others. So you do kind of feel bad, even though they are curses. And I believe the whole curse behind them was that, like, it was this woman who could who gave birth to a curse. And then she ended up running away until she got into the clutches of this curse user who ended up using her.
Mm-hmm.
And it created the death paintings. So 2 of them end up dying, and one of them remains. And we kind of see him talking to Gato, and he ends up like crying because like his brother. He's like, "Oh, my brothers are dead. I'm the only one left."
Yeah, and then we get the funniest scene of this entire thing where we go back to Megumi or whatever.
Fujiguro, or Megumi,
who's has another finger, and he's basically like, "All right, don't eat this." And so he hands it to Yuji just to hold, and then fucking Sukuna just mouth and it appears in his hand and just eats it right there.
Yeah,
and they're just like,
"What the fuck?" Because that's one of the quirks of Sukuna is he can basically manifest on any part of Yuji's body, really. So he just manifested on his hand to go, basically,
like he can't control Yuji unless Yuji gives him control, but he can still kind of be a dick and just troll with him whenever he wants.
And that's basically where it leaves us off in the story.
Because season 2 is coming out fairly soon.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to get caught up with the manga before season 2 comes out.
And
there was also a
movie at some point.
Yeah.
But that's for a different series.
I don't know. I really enjoy this series. I think it has a really good balance of
It's got the most
comedy.
unfitting ending theme ever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the composer for this series really liked... Actually, I'm pretty sure the creators in general just really like Persona.
Yeah, there is a lot of... From the music alone, there's a lot of Persona, like... I definitely feel Persona elements in it. I don't know. I really enjoy this series. I'm looking forward to the rest. To continue watching and reading the manga. I think it has a good balance of horror.
You stay interested with it.
And
I'll say it does make you hate a lot of characters in it, but what anime doesn't?
Yeah, no,
but definitely. I thought the dub was good. All the voice actors were really solid.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was a good one.
I like Gojo. Gojo's fun. Oh, also when we finished, we were watching it on Crunchyroll, and when we finished, it automatically started the Spanish dub, and it was like Gojo in Spanish all of a sudden.
That was actually very funny. It was just like so, like you were like, what?
Yeah. Well, it was better than when we were watching Yu Yu Hakusho on Hulu, and when we got to the end of because Hulu doesn't have all the episodes.
Yeah.
We got to the end, and it just started playing Inuyasha, and we were like, wait, what?
What? That's not right.
Yeah. But anyways, so before we move on, we're actually going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, because I've been talking too long, and I'm...
And we're back.
No.
So,
I refuse. I'm not back. I am... No, that's my sock. That's weird.
Alright. So anyways, Jujutsu Kaisen is pretty good. I enjoyed
Really good.
I get...
Fuck you. No.
Anyways.
No.
So, moving on from that, then we decided for the next show, we went with another relatively new one, and that was, as we said earlier, Spy Family.
It's a family of spies.
Except it isn't.
Shit.
So, Spy Family kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it was... So, there's been, like, a whole series recently of, like, just all these animes that have come out with, like, really wholesome, like, slice-of-life-ish kind of premises, but then they're also kind of serious at the same time. Mm-hmm. And Spy Family has been one of those. So, Spy Family was written by Tetsuya Endo. Ooh. And what's interesting about Tetsuya Endo was he was kind of infamous for, like, he had never been able to get a manga out. Like, his previous manga ended up getting canceled, like, after one volume.
Aww,
or something like that. And he actually made Spy Family during a period of, like, writer's block, where he just kind of was lost on where to go. And Spy Family ended up being this massive hit.
Yeah.
Which he did not expect. Because the manga itself started in 2019, so this is relatively new.
Yeah.
And the anime adaptation was 2022. I mean, the manga's only got like 10 volumes out so far, only 8 in America at
Yep.
this point. So, pretty new. And it was a Crunchyroll, although this was post Crunchy Funny merger, so it's technically a Funny Crunchy Fun dub.
Crunchy fun.
But the basic premise of Spy Family so it's one of those animes that takes place in kind of like a fictional Europe during like the World War era. Or like it's either the World War or like the Cold War era, I want to say.
Yep.
Because we'll get into it, but the time frame of this anime is really confusing.
Yeah, with some of the fashion and
Yeah, with the
stuff,
fashion choices and just how the world is. But what essentially is the whole plot is the story revolves around an agent spy named Twilight.
Not excused. Disgusting.
And Twilight's whole mission
I've been
is
ignored.
essentially he's trying to get intel from one of the higher, because they were basically, there's two sides to this like country. They're not at war, but they're kind of like at this like it's kind of like the Cold War. They could go to war at any point.
Yeah.
And essentially he works for a spy division from one side, and he's trying to get close to one of the like top officials from the other side they believe is going to be starting the war pretty soon.
Yes.
So the whole mission he's given is essentially he's got to infiltrate the school where his children go, because there's meetings where he can get close to him there.
Yes.
So his mission is essentially he has to create a family and have a child to enroll in this school.
Yeah.
So yeah. So,
Casual.
the thing you learn about Twilight real fast is Twilight is literally like an OP spy essentially.
Yeah, he's the strongest spy. He's the Gojo of spies.
But he's also like a Nanami
yeah.
at the same time. Like
He has Nanami's attitude.
And Lloyd is like not Lloyd. He's not Lloyd yet. We don't really know what Twilight's actual name is. It's never explained. But he takes on the name of Lloyd Forger. Haha, Forger, get it?
Forging his identity.
And he immediately goes to a somewhat sketchy orphanage and picks up the first girl he finds.
Well, he also is like, which one's smart?
Which
and
one of
the
these
guy
isn't dumb? And he's like, well, Anya's kind of smart, I guess.
Yeah.
And we get introduced to Anya, who is probably the most important character in this show.
Yes.
And Anya's gimmick is she's a telepath.
Yes.
Don't ask how. We don't really know yet, other than she was experimented on at one point.
Sad. Poor
And
Anya.
keep in mind, I'm referring just to the anime. The manga might have explained this at this point. I don't know yet.
Both of these, I think people know. We're just looking at the anime
So far. So he gets Anya, and he thinks he wants to test how smart she is. So he brings out a crossword puzzle. And what he doesn't realize is Anya reads his mind as he's doing the crossword puzzle in his head and basically copies him. And Lloyd thinks, wow, she finished the crossword puzzle that quick. She must be really smart, even though Anya is actually pretty fucking dumb.
She's stupid.
And she's also, it's revealed, she's been picked up by this orphanage like about 4 times.
Well, she keeps getting returned.
Yeah, she essentially like will get picked up by a family and then returned because she's
Because
Anya.
people suck.
That Anya is difficult.
Yeah. But also people stuck.
Yeah.
If you're making the commitment, you shouldn't return people or pets.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So Lloyd picks up Anya and he immediately gets a place to stay so he can start preparing to enroll her in the school.
Yes.
And while he's out doing a spy mission, Anya goes through his spy stuff and basically reveals the location to the target of his previous mission, because we find out Lloyd essentially ditches his previous mission at the start of the show, where he was in a relationship with some higher up official's daughter.
Yeah.
And he basically just goes, yeah, this isn't working, we're done, and just leaves.
Yeah.
And they kind of just resolve that by kind of getting them to basically go away after the whole Anya thing.
Yeah.
And at first he's basically like, all right, I have to send Anya back. I can't do this to this girl.
Yeah.
But Anya's like,
no.
reading his mind is like, I ain't going away again.
I'm not going back again. You're stuck with me.
Because the whole joke is, Lloyd's not aware of this, but Anya knows full and well that he's a spy at this point by reading his mind.
Yep.
So then we get cut to the next day where it's basically like, yeah, I can't just enroll a child into the school without a mother. People will think that's suspicious.
Yeah. Because at this point, it's like, if people do anything suspicious, they're considered a spy.
Yeah, and they get
like arrested.
by the secret
Which is a little weird.
by
but
the
yeah.
secret police.
Yeah.
Basically the rival faction from the other side.
It's also very like Nazi-esque. It has a lot of
I got more like Soviet era Russia vibes, but
well, like kind of the whole secret polices and stuff.
Yeah, but they aren't really like putting people in internment camps. And
No,
stuff.
well,
So
I feel
why I
like
don't
they
get
couldn't go that far.
That's why I don't really get the German aspect.
The
I get
person
more
they're
of the,
trying to like, it does have a little Hitler-esque.
I don't know.
look.
I got more Stalin out of him, to be
Well,
honest.
he has the mustache.
So did Stalin.
Oh shit! Never mind.
Honestly, he's got more of a Stalin mustache.
All right.
I mean, neither of these people are good people. They're
Yes.
both monsters. But
Yeah.
And we also still don't know enough about the guy that they're going after too. By the way, his name is Desmond.
Desmond.
And we don't.
Damien Desmond.
No,
that's the son.
That's the son. We don't know much about Desmond yet, other than he's a very
Desmond.
He has dead eyes and he's mysterious.
I mean, same. No. Dead-eyed and mysterious.
Getting back to the plot, essentially Lloyd now has to find a wife.
Yes.
And he's kind of like thinking about. At first, he tries to get his informant Frankie to play the wife, and basically, Frankie's a very homely looking man. No, Frankie's all for it, but he's a very homely looking man.
Yep.
And Lloyd's like, "Yeah, this isn't gonna work." And Frankie's like, "Why'd I dress up for this?"
Yeah. Because it was funny.
And Anya's like, "I don't want this, mommy."
Yeah, it's like no.
But they go to the store to get Anya's uniforms, and at the same time, they run into. Well, first we get introduced to the next main protagonist of this show, a woman named Yor Breyer.
Yes.
Who it
soon to be forger.
Well, we'll get to that. But she works for Town Hall as basically a secretary, city worker.
Yeah.
And she's made fun of by her coworkers for being single and spacey.
Yes.
Which she is.
Yes.
But secretly, Yor is actually an assassin.
Yes.
A very good one.
She got big pokey needles. She pokes people.
And she brutally murders people.
Yeah.
All for the good of the country.
She pokes them in a murderous way.
Yes. In her like spy dress, which is like this like wicked overly designed dress.
Yes. Which is why, not spy dress, her murder dress.
Her assassin dress. But during the outcome, it gets ripped, and she needs it to get tailored. So she goes. So this is where we finally get the meeting, where Lloyd is at this tailor to get Anya's school uniforms picked out.
Yep.
And then happens to run across Yor, who is there to get her dress fixed.
Yes.
And they kind of end up chatting a little bit, and Yor finds him attractive, and Lloyd finds her attractive.
Yeah.
And looks perfect for the mission.
Yep.
But Yor discovers, because Yor also needs to find a date for a party she's going to tonight, so she doesn't come off as weird.
And it's also because she's worried about gathering suspicion towards herself.
Because once again, anyone's suspicious, they're going to get arrested.
Yes.
And Yor doesn't want to be outed as suspicious for being a single woman.
Yeah.
Because keep in mind, this show's supposed to take place in a somewhat older time, even though it's kind of unclear.
Yeah, it's
at
very
times.
unclear when this takes place. But
yeah. Other than it's not exactly modern, but it's also not exactly super old either.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's complicated.
But anyways, he agrees to be her date for the night, but of course he gets a spy mission in between, and it appears that he stood her up, and she kind of just goes into the party and sits lonely in the corner.
Yep.
Until Lloyd shows up covered in blood, which is great.
Yeah.
And he accidentally mixes up boyfriend with husband and reveals to everyone, "Oh, I'm Yor's husband," which everyone's like, "Huh?
Huh? What?"
So,
but Yor kind of just goes with it and is like, "Yeah."
Well, Yor kind of like at first is like, "Wait, no."
No.
But we also get a great point of like the Yor's bitchy coworker, who's a bit deeper than we see at first, but at first you really don't like her. Tries to spill this like tray of hot soup on Yor.
Ow.
And Yor literally just kicks it back at her.
Yeah.
Like straight up just like leg kicks it back.
Yeah.
Because Yor is similar to Yuji, freakishly strong.
Yeah.
Wow,
are these the same shows?
Well, I mean, Lloyd's in both shows.
Oh, sorry. Look at my baby. For those who are not watching, because this is a podcast, she looks so cute right now. Sorry.
Well, that's besides the point, because basically then as they're leaving, Lloyd basically is like deciding to take her back home because he wants to apologize for the awkwardness there.
Yeah.
And as he's driving her back, the previous people he was going after in for a spy mission come back and start driving into the side of the van he's driving. And
Nice.
he goes, oh, because Lloyd's cover is he's actually a psychiatrist. And he goes, oh, don't worry, those are just escaped mental patients. And he's like, they must have run out. And Yor just completely buys this.
She's like, all right.
Because you learn real quick, Yor is not
Not
dumb.
the brightest
She's
bulb?
not dumb, but she's incredibly spacey.
She's just not the brightest bulb.
Yeah.
But she also didn't go to school, so,
Yeah.
give her that.
She's a very, well, she went to school, but she never graduated. It's implied that she
Yeah.
kind of, like, dropped out.
Yeah, to take care of her brother.
Yeah, we'll get to him. But,
Her brother.
yeah, so during this fight, they both kind of, like, are fighting through the people going after Lloyd, and Lloyd, like, bashes them in the head, and Yor's like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's just
Don't worry about it.
it's a psychiatrist technique used for special occasions. And Yor completely just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Goes with it.
And this will come back.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Yor's fucking, like, launching people and fucking kick flipping through the air, but Lloyd kind of just doesn't question this either.
Yeah, he's just like, wait, let's get out of here.
And essentially, they agree to have a marriage of convenience during this point, where it's kind of like, okay, we'll pretend to be married just so people to keep looks.
Yeah,
Alive.
basically to keep people off our backs.
But you'll learn really fast. Yor does try to be a mom for Anya.
Yeah.
At the same time.
It's real cute.
So then we kind of move to like they're kind of starting to bond as a family, and you start seeing like
They take their family photo.
which is very awkward at first, and Yor gets like gifted when they're at the tailor. Like Yor's tailor's like, oh, you'd look great in the shade of blue, and Yor's like, no, I only like shades of red or black. Which at first,
Blood.
well, no, at first you think it's because her eye matches her eyes because her eyes are like this deep shade of red, but in reality it's because her excuse is, well, I can't wear anything that's not red or black because the blood stains will show.
And Anya's reading her mind at this point, and it's just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
So Anya basically spends all of the first few episodes just reading their mind. Yeah, Anya's basically kind of like our little like
narrator
narrator
almost.
of what's going on because she's kind of like the straight man in this weird setup.
Yeah.
Even though Lloyd's technically it's interesting. It's an interesting.
It's
dynamic.
a fun dynamic.
But eventually they move on to the next phase of their mission, which is they have to get Anya into the school. And we get introduced to one of the greatest characters in this show.
Yes.
The one of the headmasters at the school, who everything in his mind is elegant.
Elegance. Well, it needs to be
It
elegant.
has to be elegant. And he's a joy. He's one of the most likable characters in
He
this show.
is.
But basically the whole orientation to get into the school is essentially an interview process. And you're essentially being tested
from the minute you walk in.
Yeah. And Lloyd prepared ahead, obviously. Like, he made sure they will pay their respects to the statue of the founder of the school,
Yep.
which gives them bonus points. There's a point where there's a kid stuck in the sewer
Yep.
that is another test, and they actually rescue him, which at first the headmaster's like, ugh, covered in filth.
Failure.
Fail them immediately. But then they just pull out a change of clothes.
Yeah.
Which the guy goes, how could they have seen this?
Elegance.
How could they, such elegance, how could they have seen this?
Yes.
And then we cut to another point where there's so this isn't actually a test, there was just literally the barn animals escaped.
Yeah.
And Yor literally knocks out a cow,
Yep.
and they get their clothes ripped up again.
Yep.
But then they had a third change, which immediately, well, no, they save the day, and the headmaster comes out and goes, oh, okay, thank you for the help. We'll give you another day to have your thing. And Lloyd goes, no worries, and pulls out another set of clothes.
Yes.
And he's like, how could they have prepared for this?
It's somewhat scary. And he's like freaked out at that point.
And we eventually do get to their interview, which, I hate one of the characters here.
Oh yeah, we
There's-
all do because he's such an asshole.
Yeah, there's the three headmasters who are doing the interview. Two of them are very kind and actually...
Yeah, because one is elegant.
Yeah, well, it's Mr. Elegant. The other one's like a more sane guy, and then the third is like the guy who basically got there because of his father.
Yeah, and he's just an asshole.
Yeah, he's an asshole, and basically he makes Anya cry, which causes Lloyd and Yor to almost fucking... Well, Yor almost murders him because Yor immediately goes to murder whenever
Yes.
she's mad.
Murderous rage.
And then Uh, my favorite is Lloyd is about to punch him, but instead smashes the table in half in front of them.
Yep.
And he goes, "Sorry, it was a mosquito."
Nah. Which this comes back. The
Yeah.
mosquito actually is relevant.
Yeah. But then we, of course, they leave the thing, and basically the douchebag headmaster's all like, "I would have let them in anyways." Only for the elegant headmaster to just sock him in the face.
And I loved like Lloyd's like line of like, if this is how you're gonna like treat my daughter, then I don't want to be here.
Part of this establishment,
which I think is kind of like his true feelings, like deep, like they're not developed yet, but they're like the inklings of like he's getting attached to this family.
You'll see progressively
really nice.
as the first season goes on that Lloyd is very much part of the mission, but at the same time he does.
Care.
I won't say loves yet because we're still not there
yet.
But he starts to slowly care more for Yor and Anya.
Yeah.
To the point where he doesn't want to see them like in harm. Like, and he does truly like kind of view them as a family. But yeah, basically the headmaster socks the douchebag in the face.
Yep.
And it actually does kind of come back to bite him later for doing that. But essentially what he does is he arranges that basically Anya is basically the top of the callback list.
Yeah.
And he basically implies that there's always a few people who drop out. Don't worry.
And like the reasoning too was like, oh, that by getting rid of that mosquito, you saved us from getting potentially some. It was funny how he brought up the mosquito.
Basically, I forget his name because they all have odd names in this show. But essentially, the elegant headmaster, his entire gimmick is essentially he just likes like proper order and stuff, and like he actually does really like Lloyd and Yor.
Yeah, and
Anya from the get-go, even though Anya drives him insane at times.
Oh yeah.
But essentially now Anya makes it in, and they have to start getting her prepped for school.
Yep.
Which then Anya immediately decides, I don't want to go to school. And they have to basically bribe her into wanting to go to the school. So they arrange this fucking castle like adventure for Anya. And during this whole meetup, we discover that Yor is an extreme lightweight.
Yep.
Like a sip of wine gets her drunk as shit.
And she's whatever.
No, yeah. One of the best scenes is they're doing this whole like play for Anya, and because Anya loves spy cartoons. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of reenacting the whole spy cartoon. And at one point, she's like, "This is Papa. He's a spy. And this is Mama. And this is Yor's just completely plastered at this point, like waves swaying back and forth. And she's like, "This is Mama. She's whatever." And Yor just goes, "Huh?" Yeah. Like, because Anya isn't 100% on board with Yor yet at this point.
Well, yeah, especially I think too because she
is an assassin.
Yeah, and like was like, what the heck?
Yeah. But so they go through this whole thing, and at one point Yor gets so drunk that they use Yor as part of the freaking diversion for Lloyd. So Yor then starts beating the shit out of Lloyd while trying to fight Lloyd. And she fights him so like almost to a standstill, to the point though where she gets so drunk she just passes out and falls on her ass.
Yep. And he's just like, but also was like, I'm not going to question it.
He's just like, oh, thank God. I don't have to fight her anymore. Because Yor is legitimately, at times, he thinks is going to kill him.
Yeah. I mean, she could.
Oh, yeah, the headmaster's name is Henry Henderson.
Henry Henderson.
Elegant. But anyways,
what a guy.
So they get through that whole thing, and then they start the school arc, and we get introduced to a few new characters. Also, Headmaster Henderson gets essentially not demoted, but he gets
put in like the worst assignment.
Yeah,
considered worst.
They essentially make it so for punching the other headmaster, rather than firing him, they just kind of put him in charge of the first years, like the children.
But also, like, they can't fire him because he's elegant.
He's also probably the best teacher there.
Yeah, people would be mad.
But at this point now,
and they all agreed with him.
Yeah.
Like, it was justified punching.
Yes. But at this point, though, we get introduced to now basically there's two subplots that go on in the show. There's Lloyd and Yor, whatever they're up to.
Yep.
And then there's Anya in school, which is the second subplot of the anime. And this is where we get introduced to two characters. We finally meet Damien Desmond, the son of Desmond, who is the who is basically Plan B if Anya can't get her Stella stars, which are she needs basically the 7 or 8 Stella stars to become a scholar or whatever,
Yeah,
so she
it's
can
like
get invited to the big party where
Yeah.
this is Lloyd's main goal. Because Anya is dumb as a brick, though,
Meh, he
Lloyd-
needs a backup plan.
Lloyd has a backup plan, which is he wants Anya to befriend Desmond's son, Damien, who
Yeah.
we get introduced to, and Anya, and Damien is kind of
Damien.
sketched out by her
Yeah.
because she's weird,
Yep.
and she makes the greatest face ever.
Yes.
And also, Lloyd teaches her martial arts to get her ready for her first day of school.
Meh.
Well, Yor does,
Yeah.
which is funny. And
And it comes back to bite them.
basically, Anya gets in an argument with Damien, and Damien insults her to the point where she fucking socks him in the face. And because of that, Anya gets so the other version of a Stella Star is a Tenarius bolt or
It's
whatever.
like something. It's a lightning bolt.
Yeah, and it's
basically.
essentially if you get 8 of those, you get expelled.
Yeah.
And initially she was going to get 3, but Mr. Henderson basically he fudged around with the stuff to get her only 1.
Well, and it was like someone else.
It was
the
also
friend.
our other favorite character,
Yes.
Becky.
Becky stepped in and was like, they were being mean to her. He deserved it. Like they were being mean to her all day.
Yeah.
Which they were.
They were. Becky's a fun character too because she's another high class rich girl, and Becky we learn more about later on. But at first, Becky kind of
love
comes off as kind of a bitch.
But we love Becky.
Well, we do
I
later.
liked Becky from the beginning.
Well,
I thought
she's
was
a
great.
fun character, but at first she's kind of like a bitch. Like she's
Yeah.
like very clearly higher class, and Anya's dumb as a brick.
Yeah.
But they end up becoming friends because we
Yeah.
later learn that Becky has no friends.
Yeah.
But that's besides
Poor
the point.
Becky.
And of course now Lloyd is like, well, Plan B is in the toilet.
And he's like,
Now we gotta
"Shit!"
hope for Plan A. So then he starts getting her to study, and the studying doesn't go well because Anya
Anya's
is
just
dumb.
Like, no, I
And-
don't wanna.
And at one point, Yor tries to help her study, and then Yor kind of just equates everything Anya's learning to murder.
And Anya's just like, fuck this, I'm
Yeah.
out.
And then we kind of go through a few school subplots, like we get the gym arc where they play dodgeball,
Yes.
and there's this one child that's a fucking adult.
Yeah, he's just an adult.
He's the stereotypical giant fucking student
Yeah.
child.
And they all and they all think that they can get like a star from this, even though they're not getting a star from winning a dodgeball game.
Yeah. And the kid fucking goes to town and he bashes Anya in the face with a dodgeball. He's like, "Yeah, I'm the best."
Best.
And Mr. Elegance is like, "That is not elegant
Elegant.
behavior." And he's like, "You think you were gonna get a star for this?"
You might be getting a bolt for it. Doesn't he get in trouble for it?
He basically gets told off essentially.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the next arc, which is my favorite. It's the basically Lloyd is now trying to. You can also get a Stella Star by doing community service.
Yeah, like good deeds and stuff.
So they go to work at a hospital, and Anya is terrible at everything.
Poor Anya.
Which is funny because there's also a line that happens previously where we get introduced, where Anya kind of walks into her house and she's like, "This is Daddy. He's secretly a spy." And then this is Mama. She's really strong but bad at most things.
Aw.
Which little Yor goes, "Huh?"
Huh?
Because Yor always gets freaking dumped on.
Poor Yor, but also, sorry Yor.
It's true.
Justified.
But anyways, back to the hospital thing. So
Yes.
Anya is so bad at everything that the staff literally is like, "Just leave.
Go away.
You're not helping."
Yeah.
But during this, there's a crippled boy who is going through physical therapy. So he's doing
Yeah.
the pool physical therapy
And he's
stuff,
a little you can tell he's a bit uncomfortable with it
Mm.
and everything.
and he accidentally falls into the pool, and no one can hear him drowning. Except Anya, who knows. And Anya basically runs over and jumps in
And
just enough to get Lloyd's attention,
Yeah.
and then Lloyd goes and saves both of them.
yeah.
But because of her heroic act, she gets awarded a Stella,
Yay!
the first in the series.
And she's the first one too of the year,
Yeah.
I think, too. So it's a big thing.
And then, of
that
course,
she
all
got.
the jealous children make fun of her for wearing it the next day.
Aw. How rude.
Yeah. Oh, and then we also get another arc that. So, what's funny about the way this show's structure is it doesn't really have a firm structure yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of more broken
Well,
up
because it's
into.
still very early into introduce. The characters are pretty new, and
Mm.
it's still new.
Because then we also get introduced to Yuri Breyer, yours
Yeah.
younger brother,
Oh God.
who likes his sister a little too much.
Yes.
But
A little. It's like, but I think it's also he like respects her so much because she did take care of him growing up. Basically.
yeah, and we had the
But it's weird.
we had the infamous Chinese censorship image.
Oh yes.
Because there's points where it shows their backstory. Because Yor's been an assassin since she was a child.
Yeah.
It's really kind of disturbing in a way.
But also, their mother had passed away when
Yeah,
they were.
their mother and father,
children.
and the father I don't know, I think was even mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were basically like orphans that Yor basically raised Yuri herself.
Yeah.
And she made the money by being an assassin. So there's random points where she'll show up after an assassination covered in blood, and Yuri would be like, you're covered in blood. And Yor would be like, oh, don't worry about that. Here's some food.
Yeah.
But in the Chinese version, they censored the blood white. So
Yep.
yeah, you
Yep.
can imagine how that looked. But
Not good.
we'll move on from that. But anyways, yeah, so we finally meet Yuri, and Yuri hates Lloyd because Lloyd is married to his sister, who he loves.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yep. It's weird.
And the whole dinner thing is really awkward. Like, Anya sleeps through the whole thing, like, doesn't meet Yuri at all.
Yeah, because at this point it's like her bedtime, and
Yeah.
she tried to stay up, but she was just like she's a kid, so she was tired and fell asleep.
Yep. And basically, Lloyd is so perfect that Yuri hates everything about him.
Yeah, because he can't. There's nothing unlikable about him.
And what's funny, too, is in the background, Yuri is a member of the secret police.
Yes.
And he knows who Twilight is, but he doesn't know Lloyd is Twilight.
And he hates Twilight.
He utterly hates Twilight, which makes it more funny.
It is very comedic.
But besides that, then there's a whole goofy scene where, like, he's so convinced that they're faking it that he's like, you two need to kiss. And York can't handle it, so she just gets fucking plastered again. And then ends up throwing a fork at Yuri and cutting his face open. It's hilarious, goofy shit. Until Yuri finally runs away, goes home. And he's like, this isn't the end of this.
This isn't the last of me, you crazy kid. He's doing like a good old...
But yeah, we go through that whole scene, and then the first half of the season ends with they go on a adventure through the park, and then this is around the point too where Anya really starts kind of like trusting Yor more.
Yeah.
Because there's like
Seeing
a point where they're going grocery shopping, and Anya wanders off because of course she did. And gets kidnapped by these freaking like kidnappers who are going to use her for hostage money.
Yeah, well, because I think she was wearing her school uniform, and they wanted to. It wasn't even that they wanted to sell the uniform.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And then use the kid as a hostage for
Yeah.
later stuff. And then Yor basically shows up out of nowhere and just beats the shit out of them.
Yeah, and they're just like, "What the hell?"
And that's kind of the turning point for her and Anya's relationship.
Yeah, and I think they get very they're very close at that point.
But anyways, so it ends where they go on kind of a little like adventure around the park with this giant penguin doll. Oh, there's another great filler episode too where Lloyd takes the family out on a day because everyone thinks he's like
everyone's suspicious of them.
suspicious that he's cheating. So he goes and takes them out around the town, and he gets a spy mission during this. So he has to take care of that. So he makes a joke about, oh, I have stomach issues. I'll be in the bathroom.
Yep.
Because also another subplot is Yor can't cook.
No, and Yor cooked that morning.
Yeah, Yor cooked this like abomination-looking breakfast that didn't kill them, but it was bad.
It was not very good.
So Lloyd pretends to be in the bathroom, and Anya goes, that's just Daddy. He's always it. Last time he was in there, he was in the crapper all day. Even though he knew that she knew that he was actually going out to spy, but Yor doesn't know this. So they go through this whole like penguin park act where like there's a thing trapped in the penguin and they have to go spy stuff.
Yeah, spy.
But throughout all this, then eventually Anya's like, I want a dog.
Yeah.
So they basically go out on a...
Best character!
The next half of the season starts where we get Anya going... Basically, they're going to go get Anya a dog, and first place he goes is like these like muscular jack dogs. And
because for him, he's thinking of it as a guard dog.
Yeah. Lloyd's being the spy and not the not the father fig right now, and
Yeah.
yours kind of like, I don't know, but
And Anya's like, I hate it.
Anya's like, I don't like these dogs
Dogs.
because everything Anya says is just funny.
Yeah. And I think too, wasn't it like that Damien or like the others had like small dogs and she was like, I want a small dog.
Because Becky has a dog and Damien has a dog, and basically she wants a dog to show off to get closer to him.
Yeah.
Despite
It doesn't work.
Yeah, well, nothing works with Damien.
Well, it does, like it kind of does, because like always in the background of his head, he's always like, I think he actually likes Anya.
No, he clearly does.
He likes
He's
Anya.
he's a
Just-
Sundari.
yeah.
But anyways, so they go through it, and then there's another spy mission that happens during this.
Yes.
And of course, yours loses Anya somehow as this is all going on because
Yep.
Anya wanders off.
Anya
And
is
yours straight
Anya.
up Spider-Man's up a wall and is like going across the top of this like dog exhibit they go to.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Anya basically encounters this big fluffy white dog.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the breed he is. It's like something like mountain dog or something.
Yeah.
But the dog kind of like takes a liking to her and brings her on piggyback rides essentially across the town.
And also, all of these dogs have been experimented on.
Yeah, they're also experiments like Anya.
Yeah.
And
She kind of relates.
the thing about this dog is he can see the future, but only people who can see that he can see the future is people who can read his mind, which is Anya. And Anya basically sees a future which is of Anya sad and you're sad and Lloyd not there.
Yeah.
Which implies that Anya died.
Not Anya.
Lloyd dies at some point.
Yeah.
Because during this point, there's a whole like bombing like subplot going on where they're trying to kill the not president. It's like the ambassador or leader of the other country or whatever. And during this whole point, like there's a point where like there's a whole door that's like rigged to explode, and Anya finds it first, and so she sets it up with because Anya gets kidnapped by these people at one point, and then she escapes with the dog.
Yep.
And then she runs into. There's also a running gag of York basically encountering the terrorists as well and beating the shit out of them, and then calling the police and be like, "Yeah, I just found them like this. I don't know what happened. I'm just a housewife."
Yeah, I'm just here.
Okay, bye.
Bye. and
then
they're like,
runs off.
want to ask more questions. And I think it's also, isn't it? What's it called? Isn't it? I totally lost where I was going. Damn it. Oh, isn't it that she's actually talking to like the spies because they're intercepting the
She's
calls?
talking to the secret police.
Oh, okay.
But the spies are intercepting the calls, and that's how they know what's going on.
Yep.
But yeah, so that this keeps happening, and then eventually Anya stumbles upon the bomb door that's supposed to kill Lloyd.
Yes.
And she basically, because she has no idea how to disarm a bomb because she's a child.
Yep.
She writes on the door with ketchup, basically
Bomb.
saying no,
No.
and then she draws her attempt at a bomb.
But it looks like
like
an
an
eggplant.
eggplant.
I didn't really get that. I thought it looked like a bomb, but I guess to other people.
Well, I mean, if you look at it like an eggplant, it makes sense.
I didn't see it. But anyways.
But yeah, so Lloyd kind of like realizes this is sketchy,
Mm-hmm.
and then he notices it's rigged, so he doesn't activate the bomb.
Yeah.
And then eventually, though, the one guy who's left has one bomb dog left because
Yeah.
he's trying to like basically they're strapping what they're doing is it's fucked up, but they're strapping bombs to these dogs.
Yeah.
And the second they bite onto their target, they explode. Thankfully, none of them actually experience this.
There is no hurting of animals.
Yes. But essentially what happens is the president or leader, ambassador, whatever he is, I forget his rank, but he's essentially going to be driven out of town and they're going to intercept his car as he's going out.
Yeah.
Lloyd basically goes in, steals his clothes, and disguises himself as him
Yep.
to get his scent so the dog will follow them. And then he basically leads them off course and then disables the bomb dog, like gets the vest off it, and then basically ends that whole thing with the president being fine and everything being no worse for wear. We also get a great scene of Yor scaring dogs by making a scary face, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the outcome of this, eventually Anya wants the dog as
She wants Bond.
he's not
Well,
Bond
oh yeah,
yet.
he's not Bond yet.
She
He's
wants
gonna be
the big
Bond.
white fluffy dog as her dog.
Yeah.
And they kind of are like, at first, like, well, it's like, no, you can't. It's crazy. This is a wild animal. But eventually, the other spy of the spy network, who goes by the name Handler, essentially goes, yeah, sure, you can have it.
Yeah.
We just need to take it for the night to make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
And then they get the family dog.
Yeah. And it's a cute scene where, like, she's talking to Lloyd and she's like, I had a daughter once and, it was really cute. She's like, Anya's adorable. I can't say no. Basically, Anya got it because she's too cute. That's basically the reason why.
But what's funny though is the forward, like, future image that the dog sees of Anya and Yor being sad. After they avert that future, it cuts to an image of them all looking happy, looking down. It's implied that this is Bond seeing the future.
Yeah.
The dog's name ends up being Bond, so we're just gonna go with that at
Yeah.
this point. But once the dog's brought in, you see that scene in real time where it's like, oh, this was Bond seeing his future family.
Yeah.
Which was really cute. But it's funny because the next day, like, Anya wants to gloat to everyone about her dog.
Doggy at this point.
Well, it's funny because they get a new family portrait taken with
Bond.
With Bond.
Yeah.
And what's funny about this one now is that, like, in the original family portrait, Anya and Yor are kind of like just kind
awkward.
of they have like kind of just neutral expressions on their face, and
Yeah.
Lloyd is happy. In the new picture, Yor now has a smile. Anya's face is still kind of neutral, but now the dog's there.
Yeah.
And she basically is kind of like, okay, I'm gonna casually show off my dog.
Yeah.
And she basically, her way of doing this is she drops the picture on there and it goes, oops, I dropped my photo. And then Damien walks by and doesn't give a fuck. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then Becky finds the photo and goes, who's this hot guy? And she's
like, my dad.
That's my dad. And she goes, is he single?
Yeah. And she's like, no, because mommy.
Becky really likes Lloyd.
Yeah.
But after that, then, like, Anya keeps trying to, like, express that she has a dog to Damien, and Damien's like, oh, that's cool. What's its name? And Anya goes, Doggy. And Damien then walks away and goes, you don't deserve to have a dog.
That's one of the best lines in it.
Yeah. There's so many. This show has great one-liners.
It's like if I named Tilly Kitty.
Cat.
Cat. Hi, Cat. Kitty. She's cleaning herself right now.
Yep. But anyways, so continuing on from there, though, then we get the scene where they go to the dog park, and because they want to, like, bond, and rather than Anya playing with Bond, Anya goes and just runs around by herself.
Yeah.
Because she's Anya. And they kind of bond together, and eventually, after they go to the park, Anya realizes that...
Well, and she goes around asking people what they name their dogs, which
yeah.
is a very adorable scene.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can just totally see a kid going out, what'd you name your dog? Why'd you name him that? And it's so cute.
And there's a scene where this other dog steals Anya's gloves.
Yeah.
And then, like, they're trying to get him back, but the dog's like, no, these are my gloves. I found them myself. And Bond just looks at me and goes, okay, you can have them. I'm sorry.
Basically, like, give me the gloves now.
Bond's a very fun character.
Oh, we love Bond.
But eventually, once they get back home, Anya finally realizes that she loves her cartoon, which is like the Bond man.
Yeah.
And she names the dog after the main character, Bond.
And like
he gets this cute
Lloyd
little bow.
like it too. Lloyd and Yor both are like, yeah, that's a good name.
And then he gets this cute little bow tie. Because he's Bond.
He's Bond. James Bond.
So then we kind of go through a few more scenes where, like, some more stuff happens. The thing about this first season of Spy Family is not a lot of the plot advances yet. We just kind of get more bonding between...
Well, it's the background. You need to build up to the plot.
Yeah. Because the next scene is we get Anya's preparing for a test.
Yes.
And during the test, like, Anya's just really dumb.
Yeah.
And they try bringing Yuri in to teach her, and Yuri's like, I don't have time for this.
I just want to look at my sister.
Oh, actually, before that, though, we missed one of the best filler episodes was Yor learning to cook.
Oh, yeah.
Where one of the best opens to an episode, essentially Yor starts showing up really late, and it's implied... At first, you're thinking, oh, she's doing assassin shit, because she shows up and she's, like, dead tired.
Yeah, she has cuts all over her hands.
Yeah.
Like...
And you're like, what's going on here? And then it cuts to another scene where, like, it shows her walking, like, with like this
with this bag that looks like it's a bloody
the bag
ugg.
that's dripping red shit, and like it looks like she's got a bloody head in a bag.
You're like,
And she has this like death stare as she's walking, and she knocks on the door, and it's revealed to be her coworker, who's kind of bitchy, but
yeah.
this is the first real like we learn about her moment. And it turns out, oh no, she's learning how to cook because she was worried that Lloyd would leave her for not being able to cook.
Yeah. And giving him the shits. Basically.
But the best part about this whole arc is Lloyd, like, despite all the best efforts of her coworker, who we start to really learn is actually a decent person. She's
yeah,
just
a
super Sundari.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend's super chill though.
Yeah.
And
His
Yuri's
boyfriend brings out the best in her.
Yeah.
They're two very complimentary characters.
Yuri's also there just for comic relief.
Yes.
But,
also for barfing relief.
Yeah.
He's the taste tester.
He's the taste tester at first until they realize he's not a good taste tester.
Yeah.
But Yor somehow manages to make the simplest dish a fucking abomination.
Yeah.
And during like the thing they have Yuri tasted, and he's like, "It's delicious," as he's like crying
And throwing up.
Yeah. And then they try to eat it and both die.
Yeah.
So then they kind of go through and realize Yor is hopeless.
Yeah.
Like she straight up cuts a cutting board into pieces.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But eventually they find, is there any sort of dish that like you guys remember that you can actually like think about? And they flash back to one of the only appearances of Yor's mother.
Yeah.
And it's implied that she used to cook this special dish. And it ends up being the one thing that Yor can actually make.
Yeah.
And what's fun is like you kind of get this sense of closure between Yor and her coworker, where it's like, okay, they finally respect each other a little bit.
Yeah. And
eventually Yor goes home and she's like, "Don't worry, guys, I'm cooking dinner today."
And they go, "Oh
no!" And Anya's in her head goes, "This is how I'm going to die."
Yeah.
But Yor makes her dish, and it actually ends up being really good, and they both love it.
Yes.
And then Yor goes, Yor's so happy that she's like, "Well, I also made dessert. This is a Yor Forge Your original."
Oh no.
And then it just hard cuts to them both passed out on the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no.
Oh no.
But going back to where we were before, the Anya studying arc,
Yeah.
Yuri's there teaching, and Yuri's like, he doesn't want to, he's basically there just to hang out with Yor, and he doesn't actually want to help Anya at all. But he eventually does, because Anya kind of like says something that gets him like to respect her, because she says something that compliments Yor, and he immediately changes his mind after that.
He's like, "This kid's all right."
Until he realizes she's hopeless.
Yeah.
And he leaves, but as he's leaving, Yor's like, "Oh, you're leaving, but I just made cookies." And then he had already left the door by this point, he runs back in, eats all of them in 3 seconds, and then you just hear him retching in the hallway. And there's also a clip of Bond eating one of the crumbs on the ground, and then, the next scene, you just see Bond passed over on the floor.
Poor boy.
And it's like, oh god, Yor.
You're not the dog.
But yeah, what happens is Anya takes the test, and Lloyd essentially at this point is so convinced she's going to fail that he breaks into the school to change her grade.
Yeah.
And during this, we meet another spy, but from a rival spy group.
Yes.
Midnight, I think his name was.
Well, because
It was either Midnight or... I'm trying to...
I thought it was Daybreak.
I'm always confused. Is Daybreak the female spy later, or is that Midnight?
I
gotta look
you
this
know
up.
better than me.
But yeah, there's another spy from a rival group who is essentially...
I don't even think he's a rival group. I think he's just inspired by Lloyd, and he wants to be better than him, but he just sucks.
Well, he's a rival spy, in a sense. But,
I don't think he's from a group, though.
I don't know. It seemed like he was. But I don't know. It's unclear. He's basically there just to be... Daybreak, that's his name.
Yeah, I thought it was Daybreak.
Daybreak.
Because it was like he's the opposite of, Because what is he?
Lloyd is Midnight.
Yeah. Is it Midnight?
Yeah.
No, it's...
Oh, no, Twilight.
Twilight, that's it. Yeah, I was
These
like,
stupid
it's not
spy names.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's basically the most incompetent spy there is. And Lloyd is tailing him disguised as like a professor from the school to get into the back room.
Yep.
And as he's like tailing him, it's like he's doing everything so out of the ordinary and like so
bad.
Obvious. And Lloyd's like, how are you not getting spotted?
Yeah.
But eventually, he gets to like a gate where he needs an ID to pass. And he's like, what? Really? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
And Lloyd basically is like, all right, at this point, I just have to kind of go with this or else we could both get in
Or
trouble.
else I'm gonna get compromised.
Yeah. So he gives the guy a fake ID to get in. And then as he's walking in, he kind of like gets knocked out by Daybreak because Daybreak thinks he's one step ahead of him, but Lloyd's faking it. And as he's doing this, the guy is so freaking awful that he's gonna like leave a calling card, and Lloyd's like, "You don't do that." And he gets up and like reveals that he was faking it.
Yeah.
And basically, he kind of just Daybreak basically goes, whatever, I'll go. You'll all remember the name Daybreak as he's leaving.
Yeah.
And then Lloyd goes to go fix what he did because he actually had gone there to go ruin Damien and Damien's older brother's grades so they would fail.
Well, the rival spy, not Lloyd.
The Daybreak.
Yeah, Daybreak.
And it's then he fixes those grades and puts them back the way they were because he can't have them failing because that would jeopardize his mission.
Yeah.
But by doing that, he then goes to change Anya's grade, and as he's scrolling through, he gets to Anya's grade, and he just goes, "Wait, really?"
What? Yeah.
And it cuts there, and then we reveal that Anya passed.
Yeah.
But
Not
but barely.
Barely.
And Anya's all happy about it, thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna get praised." Then Lloyd's like, "You barely passed." Like this.
You need to do better.
Yeah, and basically just like berates her for it, even though yours in the back going, she passed.
Yay! Oh, your.
And then we get the next scene, which this is another great scene. It's Bring Your Child to Work Day.
Yes.
Where they have to study with their parents for a day.
Yep.
And so Anya initially discusses with Yor, and then Yor immediately goes to
murder.
She doesn't think about Town Hall. She immediately starts thinking about her assassin job. And we get this like daydream of Yor ghostly going through an assassin gig with Anya tailing her.
Yep.
And the whole time she's like, "All right, Anya, and then this is how we do this. And then you want to stab here, cut apart here." And it's like...
and it's all censored and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
you don't see it very well, but then you cut to just Anya covered in blood. She turns around and goes, "Oh, Anya, you're all covered in blood." And then Anya goes, I think I'd rather just go with Daddy. And then Yor goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess Town Hall would be kind of boring for a kid." Completely not, like, missing the point of it. But then we get a clip of Anya essentially goes with Lloyd to his quote-unquote job.
Yep.
And essentially he leaves her in a room with these... it's like a box with these toys, and you're
like
supposed to...
Like a sandbox with the toys, and you're supposed to kind of lay it out.
And you're supposed to, like, lay it out, and it gives, like... It's supposed to look into someone's psyche.
Yeah.
And Lloyd's like, "It's supposed to be fun." And Anya's head goes, "Sounds boring."
I'm going adventuring.
So Lloyd's then off on a mission, and Anya is essentially... following him around.
Yeah.
And eventually it cuts back to like
Anya in the vents.
Anya's in the vents, and she completely like overhears the entire thing that's going on.
Yeah.
But eventually she gets back to the room because she's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get caught."
Well, also that scene is so funny because they're all discussing like if a person should be like considered crazy if they think there's ghosts, and then at the time like Anya's making so much noise that they
and
think
her
a
stomach
ghost
like rumbles up in the thing.
They think like it's a good scene.
But after that, then there's another scene where she's back in the room with the sandbox, and she's like, "Oh no, I need to do this." So she just dumps all the toys into it. And Lloyd comes in and he's like, "All right, let's see what you came up with." And he looks in the box, and he's like, "This is madness."
Like, this means she's psychotic.
Yeah. That one's great. And then one of my favorite scenes next is we get a Yor focused episode, which is fun.
Oh, but this is also the introduction. That was also, wasn't that the introduction?
No, yeah, the brief introduction of Midnight, I think her name is.
Midnight? I think it is. She's Midnight. Yeah. I'm pretty certain.
I think so. I'm always confused because like the names, the spy names are all...
Midnight, Daybreak. It's,
Nightfall. Nightfall. That's the one. We get introduced to Nightfall, who is a rival spy. We don't really learn... not a rival spy, an associate of Lloyd.
Who was trained by Lloyd.
She was trained by Lloyd, but we don't really learn a lot about her yet.
Yeah.
Other than she works at the hospital as well as a cover.
And she's very pretty.
Pretty in a different sense, though, because she's not like a Yor pretty, where Yor's just like... Yor was, I am pretty sure, designed to be like extremely gorgeous.
Yes.
But that's kind of like was the point behind her. Because they're the main characters. They're supposed to look better than the rest.
Yeah.
But anyways, cutting back then, also during that test arc, Damien got a Stella Star because he had the best grades. Which was cool.
Yay.
But anyways, then we move back to another great episode, which is a Yor focused episode, where Yor's now kind of like in doubt that she can be a perfect mother,
Yeah.
and Anya goes to school, but Yor thinks Anya forgot her gym clothes.
Yeah.
So she's running back to the school, and during this whole point, Lloyd's like tailing her and like, why is she at the school?
Yeah.
But Yor's basically like, I can't be caught. So she Spider-Mans up the fucking wall.
It's a good scene.
And everyone's like, it cuts to a scene in the school where the kids are like, did you hear about the weird spider lady climbing up the walls? And they're like, that's a myth. It's not real. And it cuts to this image of Yor pressed against the window as creepily as possible.
Like breathing heavily, like trying to see.
And the kids are all like, it's the spider lady.
Yes.
But eventually she does catch up to Anya and hands Anya her gym clothes. And then Anya's like, Mama, we don't have gym today.
Yeah.
And Yor just breaks. And
yeah,
goes,
she just
I wasted an entire day.
My life is over.
Yep. But then to wrap, I mean, there's more arcs that happen and some significant stuff, but to kind of wrap it up, we get to this one final arc, which shows Twilight and Nightfall they have to get this like painting because it has a code on it. So they.
Oh, you forgot to mention though, Anya does her little report about like the day.
Yeah, and they make it sound like Lloyd's a fucking psychopath. And Lloyd has to go smooth things over.
Yeah.
But so the next thing is like Lloyd has to do a side mission, and he gets teamed up with Nightfall, and they basically have to get this piece of art by winning a tennis tournament.
Yeah.
And we learn about Nightfall is that she is obsessed with Lloyd.
Yeah, and she's pissed that she wasn't picked to be his wife for the meeting.
Despite the fact that Twilight specifically made it so she wasn't.
Yeah.
Because he knew that wouldn't end well. But yeah, they go through the whole thing, and they eventually do win the painting. But at this whole time, because now Yor is aware of, her name is Fiona Frost.
Yeah.
In reality. Or that's her cover name, whatever it is. But Yor immediately now is jealous of her.
Yeah.
And like is self-doubting herself really bad. And during this whole point, Yor is at the park with Anya playing tennis because cuteness.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's where we get the sad Yor dance gift came from. Eventually, though, after they finish their mission, they come across them again, and Fiona challenges Yor to a tennis match to prove that she's truly stronger. And Yor literally hits the ball so hard, it disintegrates.
Well, it chops it into pieces, basically.
It like slices it into pieces, like fillets it.
Yeah.
And Yor gets so upset, she's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Ball. But Fiona's like, she disintegrated it.
And Lloyd and Anya are both like, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Anya, I think, is also just like, Mom, not again. Like,
Mom's like, Mom, that's the third time.
time.
But eventually the next time it like, Yor hits the thing so hard that it like literally breaks the sound barrier, and Fiona can't hit it back, and to the point where it knocks her down and just shatters her tennis racket. And she's so stunned that she's basically like, all right, Yor Forger, you win this round, but I'll be back.
And then she like speeds out of the car, and it's going back and forward across the road.
And then we get a great scene. To finish it off, we get a great scene of Lloyd basically has to fix things with Yor because Yor's all super self-doubty now. Yeah. And he takes her out on like essentially a date just to like smooth things over. But Yor is so in denial that she thinks he's breaking up with her.
Oh no.
That she gets fucking, not only does she down her wine, but then she downs the bottle of like booze that
like
Lloyd
scotch,
had. And gets so fucked up that she basically like Lloyd tries to like overcompensate by like confessing his love for her. Yeah. And Yor basically has a meltdown and just like fucking kicks him in the chin through the air.
And he gets a butt chin, like a lump chin.
Yeah. And like knocks him out. It actually hits him so hard that it knocks him out for the first time in like years.
Yeah. And he's like, damn.
And Yor admits that they were too rowdy and they got kicked out of the bar. That's why he wakes up on the bench.
And she's drunk at this point.
Yeah, she's super drunk.
Very drunk.
But then we get to the final episode, which we get the final actual advancement of the plot scene where Damien, we learn that Damien and his dad have a really weird relationship. Yeah. Like they barely have a relationship.
I mean, you've kind of seen throughout like the show that like, something's off, you know, especially the fact that he lives at the school rather than living at home, you know.
He lives in the dorms rather than at home, and he calls his brother up knowing his father's going to be there because they're having one of their big galas. Yeah. And he asks his brother, can you just ask father to come see me? And the brother's kind of like standoffish and like, I'll ask, but don't
But, like,
expect anything.
Yeah.
So they're all there, and we also forgot to talk about the Becky shopping arc.
Yeah, it's
Where-
so cute.
That arc essentially just establishes that Becky had never had friends before.
Yeah. And it's just to be utterly adorable.
Yeah, it's more
Like,
Anya, Becky hanging
I
out
mean,
and
they
stuff.
get to wear adorable outfits.
Yeah.
And it's just an adorable little
And we get
scene.
the line from one of my favorite like side characters is Becky's tenant or
Yeah.
attendant who just basically is this old badass old lady who just puts up with all her shit.
Yeah.
But we get the great line of no young mistress, no committing adultery. Because she's trying to like thinking if she could be a rival to Yor
Yeah.
of all people.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do get some backstory into Becky, and it ends where basically like they both buy these matching sheep.
Matching little sheep keychains,
Keychains.
which are like $100, like
$300
$300
or Dulk.
Yeah.
Dulk, the money in that universe.
Yeah.
And Lloyd's all like, this costs $300.
Yes.
But the reason I bring that up is because at one point Anya tries to like be friendly with Damien again.
Yeah.
And she ends up passing out somehow.
Yeah.
And Lloyd essentially switches out. He makes a duplicate of her sheep pendant so he can use it as a diversion, which is
Yeah.
actually, they joke saying that the exact duplicate only costs 10 Dulk.
Yeah.
Because, haha, funny.
It was a fancy department store.
Yes.
Like super fancy that they bought them from.
But he uses that as an excuse to essentially talk to Damien himself and get closer and get some information. He brings up the whole Anya punching Damien day one, and he acts kind of like he's apologized and he's very friendly. And then we see Desmond walks by because he actually did stop by, believe it or not. And we get the first introduction between Lloyd and Desmond.
Yes.
And it's actually a pretty good scene because we kind of learn that Desmond's not exactly an awful human being. He's
Yeah.
confusing.
He's
Granted,
very mysterious.
haven't read the manga fully yet, so I don't know more about him.
Yeah. But it's actually not. Well, the interaction with Lloyd and him is pretty pleasant because Lloyd's basically kind of using the whole Anya punched him to be like, I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that my daughter punched your son.
He also wants Desmond to know his name for the
Yeah.
future. But also, like, Damien, it shows Damien has severe daddy issues because he's literally just like, I want my dad to acknowledge me.
Yeah. He's like, my dad doesn't give a shit that some girl punched me.
Well, it's implied that he did care, just not
Yeah.
as much as he'd like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically Lloyd finally has his first real encounter, and then that's kind of where the first season ends.
Yeah.
We get that huge plot dump, and we get more Lloyd Yor Anya cuteness.
Well, and then I will say, like, after Lloyd leaves and the interaction between Damien and his father, you can see it's a lot less pleasant. Like,
Yeah.
the tone shifts and he's a lot more, like, straight to the point with him. I think it does leave him happy, though. Like, because
That
he
his dad
actually
acknowledged him.
Yeah. But it definitely, like, how he talked to his son versus how he talked to Lloyd was very
Yeah.
different.
It's also implied that he has probably the same relationship with his older son, too.
Yeah.
Considering how standoffish the older son came off on
Yeah.
the one phone interaction we get. But yeah, that's where it ends so far. The manga's obviously still going,
Yeah.
and the anime has been confirmed for a second season,
Woo!
plus a movie.
Woo!
So- We'll be seeing where that goes.
Yeah.
This was one of those shows that it came out and everyone wouldn't shut up about it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, granted, it's a fucking phenomenal show.
I mean, it's really. I see the hype and stuff. I kind of hate when people overhype stuff, but I will say it's.
They overhyped it, but it actually lives up to the
No,
hype in a lot of ways.
No, I still wanted to watch it. Like, it's not like My Hero Academia where people overhype it, and I'm like, there's some seasons that just suck. Like, they're just not good.
This show is surprisingly funny, though.
No, it is. Bill kept saying that I am Anya. Like,
There was so many points in that show where, like, you and Anya were just a mood.
yes.
Like, Anya was literally how your mood can
Yeah.
be sometimes.
So I guess I'm Anya. No, it was definitely really cute. I love all the scenes with Anya and stuff, and I hope they like develop more as a family. Like,
They do, I believe, in the manga.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the first season, you really do see Lloyd is starting to come around to them.
Yeah.
Like, there's a plot point at one point where Lloyd specifies once this mission's over, he's going to make sure they're both well off.
Yeah.
Because it's implied that he's going to continue on being a spy.
Yeah.
as of now, I mean, the end game is clearly going to be they're going to get together.
Be a family. Unless the author clearly throws us off completely.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Unless the author hates his fans. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, so the thing with this one was, the one thing I will admit is, like, people joke that it's ultra wholesome. Yeah, I mean, it's wholesome at times, but I wouldn't call the show ultra wholesome.
No, yeah. I mean, like, you definitely see parts where, like, literally your fucking murders people.
Yor rips a guy up to shreds at one point.
No.
And people get fucking murdered.
And I mean, like, the whole background of, like, I mean, this is happening during a war.
Yeah,
like,
well, during a very tense period.
Yeah, so there is definitely dark elements. And it is also a little, like, not, fantasy. I mean, there's a little fantasy.
There's fantasy elements. I will admit, though, like, the tone is weird at times, because, like...
Well, because I'm really interested to learn more about this testing and, like, what actually happened to Anya.
Because there's also...
Because that scene where, in the early beginning, where, like, with the asshole interviewer, and he's basically, like, kind of, like, do you prefer your old mom? You can definitely see, like, Anya must have knew her old mom at some point,
must have
or
knew
something.
or vaguely knew.
Or, yeah. Like,
or unlocked a memory that's been lost.
I'm really interested to see, like, Anya's full backstory. Like, that's what I would really like to
also,
see, like, what
to learn
happened.
more about Lloyd's backstory, because that's another thing that's hinted at. Because when he gets knocked out by Yor in the bar, you get a brief clip of his mother.
Yeah.
Who
well,
is,
and there's also those scenes of, like, where he was, like, alone, like,
as a
and
child,
he was, like,
but
crying.
It is implied that he had a mother.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know yet. I like where it's going, and I enjoy what I like about this show was, even the villains, every character is likable.
Yeah, or interesting, at least.
Or, like, you like to hate them, in a way.
Yeah.
Because, like, even, like, Desmond, like, we know barely anything about the guy.
Desmond is like, I want to know more about Desmond. Like, the writing is really excellent.
And, like, you love Damien, you love Anya.
Yeah.
The only characters I don't really like are, like, the little...
Yeah, but
Damien's little henchmen, but they're supposed to be
But
unlikable.
honestly, like, some of the scenes are funny. Like, the dodgeball fight where he was like, live on for me, Damien. Like,
Lord
that's
Damien.
cute. Like, those are kind of cute. Like, they're annoying, but, like, they're also, like, remember, they're kids. Kids are annoying. So,
but it's funny to me, too, how, like, even, like, the side characters are super developed. Like,
yeah, Becky.
Becky gets more development than I think she deserves at times.
We love Becky, though, because Becky's just there for Anya.
Yeah,
like,
she's Anya's token friend. I do love those scenes, though, where, like, Becky's like, so you want to hang out after school? And then Anya's, like, off doing whatever the fuck.
Yeah, she's like,
and Becky's
no.
like, Anya, come back.
Anya, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy this. I look forward to the future, because I've heard the manga gets darker, but still comedic later on.
Yeah.
I do love the dynamic, though. Like, all three of those characters are super interesting.
Yeah.
Like, Lloyd's, like, he's the straight man, but he also kind of cracks at times, because, like, the life he has just acquired is so ridiculous that he's, like he basically, he is, like, the ultimate straight man, and he got the two most ridiculous partners. Like,
but he likes them.
Yeah, he enjoys their company, even if yours a space case and Anya's stupid as a rock, but... Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so anyways, I enjoyed both these trips. I'm looking forward to the following seasons and films that we're going to eventually get to see.
Yep.
And yeah, next time we're going to probably move on to some films for 3 anime
we already
films.
watched one.
Yeah. And we got the next one lined up too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. We're made on Anchor Podcast, and you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, at Linktree/TheBarBrewGames, and you can join our Discord server, where you can see Alex post cursed images and pets and fun stuff like that. But anyways, once again, guys, we will see you all next time.
Push.